Today I'm going to look at where to start a piece of lace. It's a problem that a lot of lace makers face and they're not quite sure where to start on a piece, and I'm going to cover some of the things you need to look at and consider when deciding where to start. Obviously a bookmark such as this is quite easy. You've got to start at the point and work straight down, but you might get a little motif on an old pattern that you're not quite sure which direction to work it in and how to start it. Those are the topics I'm going to cover in this video. So first of all, looking at this little motif, it's taken from my Books Point Lace workbook, and it is a motif that started at the top and it's worked straight down. However, if you come across a pattern that's got no directions on it and no instructions of which way to work it, how do you decide which direction to work it in? You look at the ground, and on the ground you'll see little diamonds within the ground, and it should be wider, the horizontal line, than the vertical line. That gives you the direction that your cover cloth should be across your pattern. It should be across the line of the widest point. It does mean, however, you can start it at the top here or work it from the top there. And that's a case of using your experience, which does take a little time to develop, and try and work out which is the best. On this one, I've done it with the tallies at the top, and it gives you a little bit of practice before you get into the flower. Whereas if you were starting it at this end, you've got less ground to work and you're straight into the flower. It would probably work both ways round. I haven't tried it the other way for this one. Now this is another edging from my Books Point Lace workbook. In the book, just as a practice piece, it started just on a diagonal straight line. However, if you were actually wanting to work this as an edging where you were going to join in, you would look for an area where you could sew in all of the pairs in the ground into the cloth stitch. So you would probably start over on this edge and start there, but you would also start at the top of this cloth stitch motif. You may have to work the odd stitch in here and then you will go across. So you would have a diagonal line up there and then change in direction to give a V-shaped start. This way, all of the ground when you finish is sewn into the cloth stitch behind a gimp, and you can hide the join quite nicely. This little motif, or slightly bigger motif, is started again on the top edge here. The first picot would be a false picot, where you put two pairs in open formation over the first pin in the hole. You will put 5 twists on and then do a cloth stitch before laying in pairs in both directions to start work. And obviously you've got to pay really close attention to putting the pairs in for the ground as you work around. And you would work this edge, putting the pairs in, for a little distance before you actually do much of the lace itself. Again, it's worked straight down the piece. This new Easter egg pattern I've actually included colour in, and although it is viewed in this direction, as an egg would stand in an egg cup, it is actually worked with the widest point. So you would start over here at the one side, but you're working it that way down. You start at the top here, and you would start between two plaits, so that you can actually put a few pins in before you start adding the pairs in for the plaits. And also you add in pairs in for trails all the way around it. The reason for working it this way is it makes these lines, which will be horizontal when you turn it the correct plane, easier to work. It would be horrendous to work it if you were working it top to bottom in what would feel like the natural way. So it is something you need to be aware of. The other consideration, of course, if you work it in this direction, it means these are nice cloth stitch areas, but when you turn it, they look just like they've been worked that way as well. Unless you are a lace maker and look at them very closely, then you would see that they've been worked in that direction. This does, however, mean you need more pairs to work the piece, but it makes it a workable piece rather than a horrendous piece. And join off centre when you finish, so that you can take all the pairs in and throw them out in the trail before joining the two ends of the trail. The last one I want to look at is this design for a garter in Buck's Point. All of these techniques apply to the same to all laces. You have to consider where you're going to do the join. So in this garter, you're actually going to be joining the finish to the start when you've completed the length you need. Now again, on this you're looking for the shortest distance. I haven't actually photographed the finish on the pattern, unfortunately for this video, but I can explain where we started. You can either start left or right hand side, it doesn't matter which, and I would start at the top of this cloth stitch. So I would lay the gimp in and I would start the cloth stitch. I would work all the way down the cloth stitch heart and I would stop there, and then I would start the next cloth stitch heart and work that one. And by starting on that V-shaped line, it means when you come to sew in, you're sewing in behind the gimp. The join won't be seen anywhere near as much. You do have to sew in across a couple of point ground stitches, again around the gimp, and then a mirror image over here. So over here, V-shape, that second heart, and then you can continue down the length of the garter. Again, always look for either sewing into cloth or behind a gimp, and this helps you hide the knots. I hope you've enjoyed that little explanation of where to start on patterns. If you've any more questions, please drop me a line, leave me a comment, and follow for more videos coming soon. Thanks for watching.